I caught my sister and my fiance together the night before my wedding. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. Instead, I made a decision. I found his fiance. Julian Reed, my sister's billionaire fiance, stood beside me now, his posture relaxed, his presence commanding. His hand hovered near my waist, not touching, but close enough to be deliberate. My heart was racing, but my mind was perfectly clear. "Julian," I said calmly, meeting his gaze. "You're engaged to my sister, Mara Collins. I know you came here tonight looking for her." He raised an eyebrow but said nothing. "But here's the truth," I continued quietly, leaning in just enough to lower my voice. "You should walk away from her. Choose me instead." That finally did it. Shock flickered across his face. "Excuse me?" I took out my phone and opened the photos I'd taken just hours earlier. Mara, my so-called devoted sister, wrapped around my fiancé, Ethan, laughing like tomorrow didn't exist. "That's her," I said evenly. "Your fiancé?" "With my fiancé. We were supposed to get married tomorrow." Julian took the phone from my hand and studied every image in silence. "So," he said at last, handing it back, "you're suggesting this out of revenge?" "Not just revenge," I replied, folding my arms. "Mara has never handled real responsibility. She doesn't understand business, pressure, or consequences. I do. I've been the one keeping Collins and company afloat this entire time." A slow, dangerous smile curved his lips. "And what do I gain from this arrangement?" "A real partner," I said. "Someone who won't hold you back. And let's be honest, can you imagine the fallout?" Amusement sparked in his eyes, but his tone sharpened. "And how do I know you're serious?" I didn't hesitate. Before he could say another word, I leaned in and kissed him, brief, deliberate, unmistakable. Just enough to make my point. That night, I turned off my phone and disappeared. The next morning, I walked into absolute chaos. Mara was sobbing on the couch, her face swollen, mascara streaked. My parents hovered around her, panicked. Ethan sat rigid in the corner, guilt written all over him. The moment I stepped inside, Mara rushed toward me. "Lena, where were you?" I didn't answer. I walked past her, went straight to my room, and began packing. 2 suitcases later, I rolled them into the living room. Ethan jumped to his feet. "Lena, what's going on? We're still getting married today, right?" I smiled sweetly. "Of course. I'm just packing to move in with my new husband." Relief flooded his face. "Oh, thank God. I'll head to the hotel and get ready." The second he left, I turned back to my parents and Mara. Their expressions were priceless. "I need to explain," Mara started. "If this is about last night," I cut in coolly, "don't bother." Her face drained of color. "You'll hear from me soon enough," I added. "Right now, I have a wedding to attend." I loaded my bags into my car. As I checked my phone, a message lit up the screen. "If you're serious, meet me at City Hall. Don't keep me waiting. Julian." My heart skipped. I didn't hesitate. We got married that day. Quietly. Quickly. Surreal. The marriage certificate felt unreal in my hands. Julian, on the other hand, remained calm and unreadable. "What's next?" he asked as we stepped outside. "Your place," I said. He nodded. "Give your keys to my driver. You won't get through the gate without him." After a brief pause, I handed them over. A faint smile touched his lips. 15 minutes into marriage and you're already trusting me with your car." I laughed. "You're rich enough to replace it 10 times over." Something like respect flashed in his eyes. As the car pulled toward his estate, one thought kept circling my mind. Who exactly had I married? The first month passed in near silence. Julian was rarely home. He worked late, left early, and existed more as a presence than a partner. The staff insisted he return some nights, but I never saw him. And yet, against logic, I found myself drawn to him. His sharp mind. His dry humor. The rare moments when the mask slipped and something genuine showed through. Then one afternoon, my body gave out. I'd been pushing myself non-stop to keep Collins and company from collapsing, and I finally collapsed instead. When I woke up, I was in our bed, surrounded by the familiar scent of his cologne. Julian sat beside me, laptop open, eyes lifting the moment I stirred. What were you thinking? He asked quietly. We've barely been married 2 months. Do you have to lecture me the second I wake up? I murmured. His expression softened. How do you feel? Do you need water? Food? I'm cold, I admitted. Without a word, he set the laptop aside, removed his jacket, and lay down beside me, pulling the covers around us. I meant cold, I said, flustered. He paused, then smirked. I know. I'm just fixing that. His warmth was steady, grounding. He pulled me closer, protective but restrained. And for the first time since everything shattered, I felt safe. My fingers brushed against something hard under the blanket. A thin edge. Cool metal. At first, my half-asleep brain tried to explain it away, his watch, a cufflink, the corner of his laptop. But when I shifted, it didn't move with him. It stayed exactly where it was, pressed flat against the mattress beside his hip. Julian felt the change in my breathing immediately. What is it? He asked, voice low. I swallowed and lifted the sheet a fraction. A small handgun. My blood went cold in a completely different way. My eyes snapped to his. Julian didn't flinch. He just reached over with calm precision, picked it up one-handed like it weighed nothing, and slid it into the drawer of the nightstand. Then he turned back to me like I hadn't just discovered something that belonged in a nightmare. You're shaking, he said. Why do you have that in bed? My voice came out steadier than I felt. His gaze held mine, unblinking. Because my life isn't the kind that allows me to pretend danger doesn't exist. That wasn't an answer. Not really. I tried to sit up too fast and immediately regretted it. My head swam, nausea rolling up like a tide. Julian's hand came to my shoulder. Strong, warm, firm. Easy. I hated how my body listened to him before my pride could argue. He poured water from the glass on the table and held it to my lips. I took a few careful sips, the coolness sliding down my throat. Are you in trouble? I asked. His mouth curved faintly. Not a smile. Something else. Everyone in my position is in trouble. Some people just don't know it yet. That only tightened the knot in my stomach. I didn't sign up for that, I muttered. Julian's eyes stayed on my face. You didn't sign up for any of this. You were forced into a corner and you chose the one person who could put a wall between you and the people trying to break you. I opened my mouth, then closed it. Because that part was true. He adjusted the blanket around my shoulders with the same careful attention someone might give a fragile heirloom. I had my security team check your office, he said after a moment. What? I blinked. You collapsed. No one called an ambulance. Your assistant called your parents first. A sharp, bitter laugh slipped out of me. Of course she did. Julian's gaze turned colder. Your mother arrived before the paramedics. The room tilted again, but this time it wasn't from the faintness. It was the old, familiar rage, hot and humiliating, like being 12 years old and invisible all over again. What did she do? I asked, already knowing I wouldn't like the answer. She tried to take your purse, Julian said simply. My throat tightened. For my phone. For your access, he corrected. To your emails. To your accounts. I stared at him. Julian didn't raise his voice. Didn't dramatize it. He didn't need to. The calm delivery made it worse. She said you were overwhelmed and she needed to handle things for you, he continued. Then she asked my staff why you were in my home instead of theirs. My nails dug into the blanket. And what did you say? I told her, Julian replied, that you are my wife. And the only person handling your affairs is you. Something in my chest cracked, not pain, not relief, but a stunned recognition that someone had finally stood between me and them without asking me to justify it. I swallowed hard. She hates that. That's her problem. Julian's voice turned sharper. But it becomes my problem when she decides it gives her permission to treat you like property. Property. That word landed like a slap. Because Mara had treated me that way my whole life. Like I existed to be used. Like my effort belonged to her. Like my success was hers to spend. I turned my face away, suddenly embarrassed by the burn behind my eyes. Julian's hand didn't leave my shoulder. It just stayed there, steady. Lena, he said quietly, how much access do they have? My heart thudded. To what? To your company, he answered. To your accounts. To your signature. I hesitated, and Julian exhaled like he'd already heard the answer in my silence. They have enough, I admitted. They always have. He nodded once. Then tomorrow we fix it. Tomorrow? My stomach twisted. I can't just. You can, Julian cut in, still calm. And you will. Not because I'm telling you to. Because you're tired of bleeding for people who applaud your sister while she holds the knife. I stared at him again. In that moment, he didn't look like the distant billionaire who came home at dawn and left before sunrise. He looked like someone who saw every thread holding my life together, and knew exactly where to tug. Why do you care? I asked, barely above a whisper. You barely speak to me. Julian's eyes didn't move. Because you're not a bargaining chip anymore. You're not a backup plan. You're my wife. The words weren't romantic. They were possession, but not the ugly kind. More like a boundary drawn in steel. He shifted slightly, and I felt the strength of him beside me, the quiet certainty. I didn't marry you out of pity, he added. And I didn't marry you just to punish Mara. A pause. I married you because when you walked into chaos with your head held high, I saw someone who doesn't break. Someone who adapts. Someone who understands power. My throat went tight again. Power isn't what I want. Julian's gaze softened a fraction. Then use it to buy yourself peace. I looked at the ceiling, blinking slowly until the sting behind my eyes eased. Outside the bedroom door, I could hear faint movement, soft footsteps, murmured voices, the quiet order of a house that ran like a machine. A machine built to protect him. And now, apparently, me. What happens when they realize where I am? I asked. Julian's mouth curved. That dangerous, familiar smirk. They already know. My stomach dropped. How? They tried to get through the gate an hour ago, he said. I sat up so fast my head swam again. My parents? And Mara, he confirmed. And your fiance. The word fiance still made my skin crawl. Julian's hand pressed lightly to my back. They were very loud. What did very loud mean? I asked, voice thin. It meant your mother screamed that you were unstable, Julian said, eyes hard. Your father demanded to see you. Mara cried. Ethan tried to bargain. Bargain? I echoed. Julian's jaw tightened. He offered to make it right if you would come back and stop humiliating them. I let out a laugh that sounded nothing like humor. Did you let them in? I asked. Julian's answer was immediate. No. Relief rushed through me so fast it almost hurt. They demanded to see you, he continued. I told them you were resting and you were not receiving visitors. And they just left? I asked, already doubting it. They didn't leave willingly, Julian said. My pulse kicked. Julian. He didn't look away. I had security escort them off the property. That should have scared me. Instead, a strange, guilty satisfaction curled in my chest. For once, my parents weren't the ones controlling the narrative. For once, Mara's tears didn't open doors. For once, Ethan's charm didn't buy him forgiveness. Julian watched my expression closely, like he was measuring whether I would recoil. I didn't. I need to go back, I said finally. To work. To the company. You will, Julian replied. But not alone. I frowned. I don't need a bodyguard. You're already a target, he said, voice flat. I scoffed. A target for what? My sister's tantrums? Julian's eyes darkened. Mara isn't the only one who benefits from you staying quiet. A chill slid down my spine. He reached toward the nightstand, not for the drawer this time, but for a folder stacked neatly beside his laptop. I hadn't noticed it earlier. He handed it to me. Read, he said. My fingers trembled as I opened it. Inside were copies of documents, company ledgers, email threads, signed approvals with my name on them. But the signatures. I stared. They looked like mine. Almost. Not quite. I flipped through faster, my breath coming shallow. There were loan applications. Transfers. Vendor approvals. A new line of credit opened under Collins and Company. And the guarantor signature was mine. My head snapped up. I didn't sign this. I know, Julian said. My voice cracked. How long has this been happening? Julian's gaze didn't waver. Long enough that someone assumed you'd never check. My stomach turned. Because I hadn't checked. I'd been too busy keeping the company afloat. Too busy fixing Mara's messes. Too busy smoothing my parents' pride while they used my work like it belonged to them. How did you get these? I asked. Julian didn't answer directly. Does it matter? It did, but I was too sick with realization to push. My hands tightened on the folder. They forged my signature. They did, Julian confirmed. And they're using it to drain the company, I whispered. Julian's voice softened just slightly. And to set you up to take the fall when it collapses. My lungs felt too small. In the silence, I heard my own heartbeat like a warning drum. I looked down again at the documents, at my name used as a weapon. And in my mind, I saw Mara's tear-streaked face on the couch. Ethan's guilt. My parents' panic. Not because they felt sorry. Because they were scared I would stop holding the roof up while they emptied the rooms. I shut the folder with a sharp snap. Julian watched me. What do you want to do? He asked. For the first time, it wasn't a test. It wasn't a challenge. It was an invitation. I inhaled slowly. I want everything, I said. Every record. Every signature. Every email. I want to know who touched what and when. Julian's eyes lit with something dangerous, approval, maybe. And then? He prompted. I met his gaze. Then I want them to understand, I said, voice steady, what it feels like to lose control. Julian leaned back slightly, watching me like he'd been waiting for that sentence since the moment I kissed him. Good, he said. I blinked. Good? Julian's smile was brief and sharp. Because if you're going to do this, Lena, you can't do it halfway. He reached for his phone and typed something quickly. A moment later, there was a soft knock at the door. A woman stepped in, mid-30s, tailored black suit, hair pinned neat, eyes alert. Julian didn't introduce her like staff. He introduced her like an asset. This is Evelyn Hart, he said. My legal counsel. Evelyn's gaze met mine. Professional, precise. Mrs. Reed. I flinched at the title. Julian noticed and ignored it. Evelyn held out a tablet. I've prepared what Mr. Reed requested. Temporary control measures, account freezes, internal audit authorization, and a request for injunctive relief if your family attempts further transactions. My mouth went dry. All of that is possible. In one day? Evelyn's expression didn't change. In the right hands, yes. I looked at Julian. He looked back like he'd never doubted I would choose this path. I'm not trying to destroy the company, I said, almost to myself. Julian's voice dropped. You're trying to save it. From them. I swallowed. Evelyn tapped the screen and slid the tablet closer. We'll start with revoking access. Who currently has signing authority besides you? I didn't even have to think. My father, I said. And Mara. And Ethan, he's on as operational consultant but he shouldn't be. Julian's eyes narrowed slightly at Ethan's name. Evelyn's fingers moved fast. We'll remove them. My pulse pounded. They'll notice. That's the point, Julian said. A heat rose in my chest, fear and adrenaline and something else I hadn't felt in a long time. Control. I want to be there when they notice, I said. Julian's gaze locked on mine. Then you will be. Evelyn glanced up. There is one more thing. What? I asked sharply. Evelyn's eyes flicked to Julian for a fraction of a second. Permission. Julian nodded. Evelyn continued. Your sister filed a report early this morning. My heart stopped. A report? She reported that you were missing, Evelyn said, tone neutral, and implied that you may be under duress. I stared. She thinks she can. What? Force me back? Julian's jaw tightened. She thinks she can make you look unstable? Of course she did. My hands curled into fists under the blanket. Evelyn slid another document onto the bed. We can neutralize that quickly. A voluntary statement. Documentation of your marriage. Proof that you are safe, conscious, and acting by choice. My throat tightened. The old Lena would have panicked. Would have tried to soften it, to appease, to avoid scandal. But scandal was already here. And I was done apologizing for surviving it. I lifted my chin. Fine. Julian's eyes held mine. Fine. I'll give the statement, I said. And then I'm going to my office. Julian's mouth curved. Today? Yes, I said. Today. Because if I wait, they'll keep writing my story for me. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded once. Get dressed, he said calmly. Eat something. Then we go. I hesitated. We? Julian leaned in just slightly, voice low enough to feel like a promise. You walked into chaos alone yesterday, he said. You won't do it again. My chest tightened with a feeling I didn't want to name. Evelyn stepped back. I'll arrange the statement and coordinate with your company's bank. Mr. Reed, I'll need your approval on the security detail. Julian didn't look away from me. Approved. Evelyn left quietly, closing the door behind her. The room fell still again. Julian's hand brushed my hair back from my face, brief, almost absent-minded, like he wasn't used to touching anyone gently. I froze. He noticed. His eyes softened, just for a second. You're allowed to lean on someone, he said quietly. At least until you can stand without them. I swallowed hard, the words hitting deeper than I expected. I don't know how to be anyone's wife, I admitted. Julian's gaze held mine, dark and steady. Then don't try to be, he said. Be yourself. The woman who didn't cry when her world ended. The woman who chose a better one. He stood, straightening his cuff like he was stepping back into the armor he wore outside this room. Then he turned at the door. And Lena, he added. What? I asked. His voice dropped. When they see you today, they're going to try tears, anger, guilt, and fear. Don't react. I lifted my chin. I won't. Julian's smirk returned, faint and lethal. Good, he said. Because if you stay calm. He paused, eyes glinting. They'll be the ones who fall apart. And as the door closed behind him, I stared at the folder of forged signatures on my lap, my pulse steadying into something sharp. For the first time, I wasn't just running away. I was walking back in. On my terms. The car ride felt unreal. Julian's vehicle moved through the city like nothing could touch it, tinted windows, silent engine, 2 security cars behind us that I pretended not to notice. My phone buzzed nonstop in my bag. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Because for the first time in my life, I knew exactly what they were saying. Where are you? How could you do this? Mara is devastated. Ethan is suffering. You're embarrassing us. Come home. Julian sat beside me, reading emails on his tablet like we were on the way to a board meeting instead of a war. You're quiet, he said without looking up. I'm deciding what kind of quiet I want to be, I replied. That got his attention. He lifted his gaze. And? I looked out the window at the passing streets, the world still moving like my life hadn't detonated. The kind that doesn't break, I said. Julian's mouth curved. That's my favorite kind. The car stopped in front of my office building. Collins and Company's logo glinted above the entrance like a trophy that had never belonged to Mara. My stomach tightened. Julian's driver opened the door. Julian stepped out first, then offered his hand to me like it was the most natural thing in the world. I took it. Not because I needed help. Because I wanted them to see it. Inside the lobby, heads turned. Whispers sparked and spread like wildfire. I caught snippets as we walked. Is that her? That's Julian Reed. Why is he here? Is she? Oh my God. The elevator ride was silent. The moment the doors opened to my floor, I heard the commotion. Raised voices. Quick footsteps. The panicked rhythm of people realizing the person they'd underestimated was finally standing up. My assistant, Natalie, nearly ran into me. Her face went white when she saw Julian beside me. Lena, thank God. Your parents are in your office. They let themselves in? I asked calmly. Natalie's eyes flicked away. They said they had the right. Julian's gaze sharpened. Who gave them access? Natalie's throat bobbed. Mr. Collins. He said it was fine. Of course he did. I kept walking. Julian matched my pace effortlessly. As we reached my office door, I could hear my mother's voice clearly, sharp with hysteria. She's not thinking straight. She's always been emotional, she just hides it. Where is she? Tell her to come back right now. My father's deeper voice cut in. We need the bank contact. Immediately. If she's done something stupid. And then Mara's voice, thin and trembling, layered over both. Lena wouldn't do this to me. She wouldn't. She loves me. I stepped inside. The room went silent so fast it felt like the air was sucked out. My mother spun toward me first, eyes blazing, already rehearsed for the performance. There you are, she snapped, relief and rage colliding. Do you have any idea what you've put your sister through? Mara sat on my couch, tissues in her hands, tears shimmering like she'd been crying for hours. Ethan stood by the window, jaw clenched, looking like a man waiting for his cue. My father was behind my desk. Behind my desk. In my chair. Hands on my folders like they belonged to him. Something in me went perfectly still. Then I smiled. Not sweet. Not polite. The kind of smile that made people nervous. Get out of my chair, I said calmly. My father blinked. Lena, don't start. I said, I repeated, voice even, get out of my chair. Julian stepped forward, just half a pace behind me, his presence filling the room like a storm cloud. My father's gaze flicked to him, and for the first time, uncertainty hit his face. My mother's expression changed instantly, eyes widening, voice turning syrupy. Mr. Reed, she said quickly, forcing a smile. This is unexpected. We were just trying to help Lena. She's been very overwhelmed. Julian didn't smile. He didn't even acknowledge her attempt at charm. He looked at my father instead. Move, Julian said, tone calm. My father's pride flared. This is a family matter. Julian's gaze didn't shift. Not anymore. My father hesitated, just long enough to prove he understood who he was dealing with, then stood abruptly, pushing the chair back. I walked around the desk and sat down. In my chair. Behind my desk. Where I belonged. The room felt like it tilted. Mara stood, wiping her cheeks, voice breaking beautifully. Lena, she whispered, stepping toward me. I'm so sorry. I never meant. Stop, I said softly. She froze. I looked at her, really looked at her. The swollen eyes. The trembling hands. The fragile sister act. It had worked on everyone for years. Not today. I know what you did, I said, still calm. And I know what you've been doing. Her lips parted. What are you talking about? I opened the folder Julian had given me and slid it across my desk. Mara's gaze dropped to the documents. Her face tightened for half a second, just half. Then she recovered, shaking her head quickly. I don't understand, she said, voice small. Those papers? I don't. Those are loan applications, I replied. Those are transfers. Those are approvals. All signed with my name. My mother's eyes flicked down and back up. Lena, you probably forgot. I didn't sign them, I said. My father's jaw clenched. Are you accusing us? I'm stating facts, I replied. Someone forged my signature. Ethan took a step forward, palms raised like he was the reasonable one. Lena, he said softly, you're stressed. You collapsed. You're not thinking clearly. Let's talk at home. Julian moved. Not aggressively. Not dramatically. He just shifted closer, and suddenly Ethan's presence felt smaller, weaker, like a candle beside a locked door. Ethan's eyes flashed with anger. Stay out of this. Julian's gaze turned to him, flat and cold. You were engaged to my wife, Julian said. And you cheated with her sister the night before your wedding. Ethan's face reddened. That's between. No, Julian cut in. That's character. Silence slammed into the room. Mara's tears spilled again. Lena, please. I made a mistake. Ethan and we weren't thinking. You weren't thinking when you opened a line of credit under my name? I asked quietly. Her crying hitched. I tilted my head. Or were you thinking perfectly? Mara's gaze darted to my mother, panic flickering. My mother snapped, enough. This is insane. You're going to ruin your sister's life over paperwork. Paperwork is how you ruin someone's life, I replied. My father slammed a hand on my desk. We are your parents. You will not. You are not my owners, I said, voice still calm. And you have exactly 2 minutes to leave my office before I call security. My mother's mouth fell open. Security? On your family? I stared at her. Then I pressed a button on my desk phone. Natalie answered immediately, breathless. Yes? Send building security to my office, I said evenly. And tell them to escort unauthorized visitors out. My mother lunged forward. You can't. Julian lifted a hand, not touching her, just stopping her with presence. Don't, he said softly. My mother froze, eyes wide. Because the tone wasn't loud. It was certain. My father's voice dropped. Lena, think about what you're doing. The media. I laughed once. Quiet. Sharp. You mean the media Mara uses when she wants attention? I asked. Or the media you threaten me with when you want obedience? Mara's sobs grew louder. I never wanted this. I never wanted you to hate me. I leaned forward. Mara, I said softly, you never wanted me to notice. Her crying stopped for a fraction of a second. And that was all I needed. The door opened. 2 security guards stepped in, stiff and formal. Ma'am, one said carefully, eyes flicking to Julian and then back to me, we were told. I didn't authorize these people to be here, I said. Please escort them out. My mother's voice rose into outrage. This is ridiculous. She's our daughter. The guard looked uncomfortable. Julian's voice cut through like a blade. She is your daughter. And you're still trespassing. My father's face tightened with humiliation. He grabbed my mother's arm. Let's go, he hissed. My mother resisted. No. Lena, this man is manipulating you. I stood slowly. And the room held its breath. No, I said, voice quiet. He's not manipulating me. He's the first person who's ever refused to let you manipulate me. My mother's face twisted. Mara stepped forward again, softer, trembling. Lena. Please. Don't do this. Ethan loves you. Ethan swallowed hard, seizing the opening. Lena, I made a mistake, okay? But I'm here now. I'll fix it. We'll still get married. I smiled at him. And that smile shattered something inside his expression. You're right, I said sweetly. We will still have a wedding. Relief flashed in his eyes. Then I continued. But it won't be ours. His face drained. Julian's hand settled at my waist then, light, deliberate, a quiet claim. Ethan's gaze snapped to it, fury boiling. Mara's breath hitched. My mother made a strangled sound. And I felt it, felt the moment the room finally understood. I wasn't bluffing. I wasn't panicking. I wasn't begging. I was done. Evelyn's voice came from the doorway, crisp and composed. Mrs. Reed, she said. I turned. Evelyn held a folder and a printed document stamped with bank letterhead. It's done, she said. All access has been revoked. All non-essential signatories removed. The accounts are flagged. Any future attempts will trigger an immediate hold. My father's eyes widened. What did you do? I met his gaze. I protected myself, I said simply. Mara's voice cracked. Lena, please. I held up a hand. Here's what's going to happen, I said calmly. An internal audit will begin today. Every transaction, every signature, every email. If someone forged my name, it will come out. My mother's face went pale. You wouldn't send your own family too? I'm not sending you anywhere, I replied. Your choices will do that. Mara's tears returned in full force. I didn't forge anything. I looked at Julian. Julian looked back like he'd already predicted this. Evelyn stepped forward, flipping open her folder. We also have surveillance footage from the bank branch, Evelyn said neutrally. And electronic access logs. Whoever submitted these documents used an internal token assigned to Miss Mara Collins. Mara's sob caught in her throat. Her eyes widened, and for the first time, real fear surfaced. My father stumbled back a step. Mara. Tell me that's not true. Mara's mouth opened. Nothing came out. My mother shook her head quickly, desperate. No. This is some mistake. Julian's voice was calm. Mistakes don't replicate signatures. Ethan suddenly spoke, voice sharp, almost frantic. Okay, fine. Maybe she did something stupid, but Lena, This doesn't need to become a scandal. We can settle it quietly. You're overreacting. Julian's eyes turned to him. And Ethan shut his mouth like he'd been slapped. I felt the last thread of my old hesitation snap. I walked around my desk and stopped in front of Mara. She looked up at me through wet lashes, trembling. Why? I asked softly. Her lips shook. Why did you do it? I repeated, still calm. Mara swallowed, eyes darting to our parents. Then she whispered, because it was supposed to be mine. The room went silent. My mother's face contorted. Mara. Mara's voice broke. Everything. The attention. The company. Ethan. All of it. It was always supposed to be mine and she always got in the way. There it was. The truth, ugly and raw, finally crawling out. My father looked like he'd been punched. Ethan's expression twisted, shock and something like disgust. My mother rushed forward, trying to shush her, trying to put the mask back on. But it was too late. Mara had said it out loud. I stared at her for a long moment. And strangely, I felt nothing. No devastation. No heartbreak. Just clarity. I'm done, I said quietly. Julian's hand tightened at my waist, grounding me. Security stepped forward again, waiting for my word. I turned to them. Escort them out. My mother's voice rose again, frantic. Lena, please, think. I looked at her. I did think, I said. For years. While you spent my thinking like it belonged to you. My father's shoulders sagged as security guided them toward the door. Mara sobbed, stumbling, reaching for me like I was still her safety net. Lena, please. I took a step back. Ethan was last. He paused at the door, jaw tight, eyes desperate. This isn't over, he said quietly. You'll regret this. Julian's gaze didn't change. But his voice did, quiet and lethal. No, he said. She won't. The door closed. And for the first time in my life, the room felt like it belonged to me. I exhaled shakily. Evelyn placed a gentle hand on my arm. You did well. I nodded, throat tight. Julian turned to me. You okay? I expected the question to irritate me. It didn't. I don't know, I admitted. But I'm standing. Julian's mouth curved faintly. Good. Because now we do the second part. I frowned. Second part? He nodded toward the window, where the city stretched out, bright, indifferent, relentless. The public narrative, Julian said. They're going to try to paint you as unstable. As heartless. As manipulated. My stomach tightened. Let them. Julian's eyes sharpened. No. We don't let them. Evelyn cleared her throat. We have your statement ready. Voluntary. Documented. It will shut down the missing person angle. I nodded. Do it. Evelyn turned to leave, then paused. And Mrs. Reed. You may want to check your phone now. Before the story reaches you from someone else. My stomach dropped. I pulled my phone from my bag and powered it on. Notifications exploded across the screen like fireworks. Missed calls. Messages. Voicemails. And then. A video. Posted 30 minutes ago. By Mara. My thumb hovered. Julian leaned in slightly, eyes on my screen. What is it? He asked. I swallowed, pulse pounding. Mara, I said. I tapped play. Mara's face filled the screen, carefully lit, eyes red, voice trembling. My sister Lena is missing, she said, choking on a sob. If anyone has seen her, please. Please call. She's not in her right mind. She's been under so much pressure, and I'm terrified someone is taking advantage of her. My jaw clenched. Mara continued, voice cracking perfectly. I love her. I just want my sister back. The comments were already pouring in. Where is she? Praying for you. That poor family. People are saying she ran off with a billionaire? No way. She wouldn't do that. My hands shook. Julian took the phone gently from my fingers and turned the screen off. He looked at me. Not angry. Not surprised. Just steady. Now, he said quietly, we respond. I inhaled slowly, forcing the shaking to stop. How? I asked. Julian's smirk returned, controlled, cold, confident. By telling the truth, he said. And letting the world watch your sister choke on it? I stared at him. My pulse steadied. And the fear shifted into something sharper. Resolve. Okay, I said. Let's do it. Julian nodded once. Then he reached for his own phone. And with the calm of a man used to moving markets with a single call, he dialed someone. Get my PR team on standby, he said. And schedule a press statement for Mrs. Reed. Today. He ended the call and met my gaze. 5 hours, he said. That's how long we give them to dig their hole deeper. I swallowed. Then we bury it, I said. Julian's eyes lit with that same dangerous respect I'd seen the first night we met. Yes, he said quietly. Now you're thinking like my wife. I didn't blush this time. I didn't flinch at the title. Because for the first time since my life cracked open, I finally understood what I'd really married into. Not just wealth. Not just protection. A machine. A strategy. A man who didn't just survive power. He mastered it. And now, so would I. That afternoon, the conference room in Julian's building looked like something out of a financial war film: glass walls, city skyline, a long table lined with people in dark suits and sharp eyes. Julian's PR director, a woman named Sloane, slid a tablet toward me. Here's the draft statement, she said. Short. Clean. No emotion they can twist. We show facts. We show choice. We show stability. Evelyn sat beside her, calm as ever. Julian stood behind my chair like a silent anchor. I read the draft once. Then I looked up. No, I said. Sloane blinked. No? I slid the tablet back. It's too soft. Julian's brow lifted slightly, interest. Sloane hesitated. Mrs. Reed, softness is safer. The public. The public will follow the strongest story, I cut in evenly. Mara made herself the victim. If I sound polite, she stays the victim. Sloane's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. What do you want to say? I inhaled. I pictured Mara crying on my couch. My mother screaming about humiliation. My father's hands on my desk. Ethan's voice telling me I'd regret it. And then I pictured the forged signatures. My name turned into a weapon. I looked at Sloane. I want to make one thing very clear, I said calmly. I didn't disappear. I left. Julian's mouth curved faintly. Evelyn's eyes sharpened, approval. Sloane nodded slowly. Okay. That's a hook. And I want proof ready, I added. Marriage certificate. Timestamp. My voluntary statement. And I want the bank access logs referenced. Not all the details, just enough to show this isn't family drama. It's fraud. Sloane's lips parted. That's bold. Julian leaned down, voice low near my ear. Bold wins. My pulse jumped. But my voice stayed steady. I'm not trying to win sympathy, I said. I'm trying to end this. Sloane turned quickly, typing. Give me 10 minutes. Julian's phone buzzed. He glanced at it once, then slipped it into his pocket. What? I asked. His eyes met mine. They're outside. My stomach tightened. Who? Your family, he said calmly. And Ethan. Of course they were. Sloane looked up sharply. Are they coming in? Julian's smile was thin. Not unless I allow it. Evelyn stood. The statement is scheduled. They're trying to force a confrontation before you speak. I swallowed. The old instinct rose, panic, guilt, that sick need to fix it. Julian's hand rested on my shoulder, firm. Stay here, he said. Let them wait. I want to see them, I said suddenly. Julian's gaze locked on mine. Why? Because I'm done being afraid of their voices, I said quietly. And because if Mara wants an audience, she's going to get one, just not the way she planned. The room went very still. Then Julian nodded once. Fine, he said. But you'll do it my way. Evelyn frowned. Julian. He lifted a hand. They want a scene. We'll give them one with witnesses and cameras. Sloane's eyes lit. That could work. Controlled confrontation. Julian looked down at me. You don't speak to them alone. You don't raise your voice. You don't touch them. You let them reveal themselves. I nodded. Okay. Julian's gaze was unreadable. And if you start to shake? I lifted my chin. Then I'll breathe. A quiet pause. Julian's mouth curved slightly. That's my girl, he murmured. I ignored the way those words landed somewhere deep in my chest. We moved. Not rushed. Not panicked. Controlled. Julian led me down a private corridor, security stepping ahead, and the sound reached us before we even turned the corner. My mother's voice, high, frantic. My father's voice, sharp, demanding. Mara's voice, sobbing. Ethan's voice, low, coaxing. And then we stepped into the lobby. They were there. All four of them. My mother spotted me first. Her face broke into relief so intense it almost looked real. Lena, she cried, rushing forward. Security moved instantly, blocking her. She stopped short, eyes flashing with rage. How dare you, she snapped, pointing at Julian. How dare you turn her against her own family? Julian didn't react. I did. I stepped forward just enough to be seen clearly. And I smiled. Not sweet. Not cruel. Just calm. Mara, I said. Mara turned, eyes widening, tears dripping. There you are, she sobbed, reaching out. Lena, thank God, please, just come home. Everyone's so worried. I saw your video, I said quietly. Mara's breath hitched. My father stepped forward, trying authority. Lena, this has gone far enough. You will come with us. No, I said simply. The word dropped like a stone. Ethan's expression tightened. Lena, listen, we can talk. Julian shifted a half step, his presence cutting Ethan off without a word. Ethan's jaw clenched. You think you own her? Julian's gaze turned to him, cold. No. But you never did. Ethan's face reddened. Mara's tears grew louder, drawing attention. Heads turned in the lobby. Phones lifted subtly. My mother noticed. She changed tactics instantly, voice trembling for the audience. Lena. Sweetheart. You're sick. You collapsed. You're not thinking right. Let us help you. I tilted my head. Help me how? My mother blinked. By bringing you home. To where you forged my signature? I asked softly. Silence. My father's face tightened. Watch your mouth. I smiled again. That's interesting. Because you didn't tell Mara to watch hers when she crawled into my bed with Ethan. Gasps rippled. Mara's face went white. Ethan flinched. My mother's eyes bulged with fury. You little, she started, then caught herself, forcing tears. Lena, you're confused. I'm not, I said. I'm very clear. I turned my gaze to Mara. Mara, I said calmly, are you going to tell them the truth? Or should I? Mara's lips trembled. Lena, please. I nodded once, like I expected that. Then I turned slightly to the crowd. Not a full announcement. Just enough projection. I'm not missing, I said. I'm married. Mara made a strangled sound. My father barked, married? To him? That's insane. Julian's gaze didn't move. Ethan's face twisted, desperate and ugly. This is a stunt. She's doing this to punish us. I looked at Ethan. No. I did it to protect myself. My mother shook her head violently. Protect yourself from what? Your family? From thieves, I corrected. Mara stepped forward, sobbing harder. Lena, stop. You're ruining me. I stared at her. You ruined me first, I said quietly. Mara's eyes flashed with something dark, anger breaking through the tears. You always had everything, she spat suddenly, louder than she meant to. You had the company, you had the attention. My mother lunged toward her, grabbing her arm. Mara. Too late. The mask slipped. People heard it. Phones caught it. Ethan's eyes widened in horror. My father looked stunned. Mara covered her mouth, realizing what she'd just done, but the damage was already done. Julian leaned slightly toward me. Don't react, he murmured. I didn't. I just watched Mara crumble under the weight of her own words. Then I stepped back. Evelyn appeared at my side as if summoned, holding a folder. Mrs. Reed, she said, voice clear. I took the folder and held it up slightly, Not showing details, just the official seal. This is my voluntary statement, I said calmly, addressing the watching eyes. I'm safe. I'm not under duress. I made my choice. My mother's voice rose again, frantic. Lena, please, think of the family. I said. I'm thinking of the family you never protected me from. My father's voice dropped, dangerous. If you do this publicly, you'll destroy all of us. I looked him in the eye. Then you should have thought of that before you tried to destroy me quietly. Silence. Julian's hand came to my lower back, steady. We're done here, he said. He guided me away, not dragging, not forcing. Just leading. And as we walked, I heard Mara's sobs turn into shrieks. I heard my mother's voice turn sharp with blame. I heard Ethan's voice begging. It all blurred into noise. Because for the first time, their noise wasn't inside my head. It was behind me. Back upstairs, Sloane's team moved fast. Within an hour, my statement was posted. Short. Clean. Unmistakable. I left by choice. I am safe. I am married. Any claims otherwise are false. Evelyn filed the formal notices. The bank flagged every attempt. The auditors arrived. And then, right on schedule, Mara posted again. This time, it wasn't tears. It was anger. A shaky live video, her face twisted, eyes wild. She stole him, Mara hissed. She stole everything. She's always been jealous, always, she thinks she's better than me. Sloane watched the screen and whispered, almost reverent, she's doing it for us. Julian stood behind me, watching too. What now? I asked, voice steady. Julian's eyes stayed on Mara's unraveling face. Now, he said quietly, we let her keep talking. My phone buzzed. A message from Natalie. Lena. The board is asking for an emergency meeting. They want you present. They say your father is calling everyone. He's telling them you've lost control. I exhaled slowly. Board meeting, I said. Julian nodded. Good. I frowned. Good? Julian's mouth curved. Because the board is where power lives, he said. And today, you're going to walk in and remind them who built the company. My pulse steadied. My fear sharpened into focus. I lifted my chin. Okay, I said. Let's go. Julian's gaze locked on mine. And for the first time, his voice softened. I'll be right behind you, he said. But you're the one who will speak. I nodded once. Then I stood. And as I walked toward the next fight, I realized something that made my hands stop shaking entirely. Mara had always believed I needed permission to exist. To succeed. To be chosen. But now? Now I had something she never would. A seat at the table. And a husband who didn't just protect me. He believed I could win. The boardroom smelled like polished wood and expensive cologne. 10 people sat around the table, men and women who had watched me build Collins and Company in silence for years, who had praised my work ethic while handing Mara the spotlight. My father stood near the window, phone in hand, face tight with fury. Ethan was there too. Not as a fiance. As a parasite who still thought he belonged. Mara wasn't present, which didn't surprise me. She preferred cameras, not consequences. As I entered, every head turned. The room fell into a tense, buzzing quiet. I took my seat at the head of the table. My father's jaw clenched. He opened his mouth. I held up one hand. He froze. And for the first time, I heard the room obey me instead of him. Before anyone speaks, I said calmly, I'm going to show you something. I slid copies of the forged documents onto the table, one by one, letting the paper land with quiet finality. Gasps. Murmurs. A board member, Mr. Harlan, picked one up, eyes narrowing. Is this a loan application? Yes, I said. Signed under my name. Without my consent. Another member, Ms. Patel, flipped through quickly, her face tightening. These approvals, these transfers, Lena, this is fraud, I finished. My father's voice cut in. This is a misunderstanding. I looked at him, calm as ice. No. This is a pattern. Ethan stepped forward, trying charm. Lena, you're emotional. Let's not accuse people. Julian's voice came from the doorway, quiet and lethal. She isn't emotional, he said. She's accurate. Every head turned. Julian Reed stepped into the room like he owned the building. He didn't sit. He didn't smile. He simply stood behind me, hands clasped loosely, eyes scanning the board with a cold, measuring calm. My father's face tightened. You don't belong here. Julian's gaze didn't shift. Neither do thieves. The board members looked stunned. Curious. Alert. I kept my voice steady. I'm here to inform the board that as of today, all unauthorized access has been revoked, I said. An internal audit is underway. And legal notices have been filed. Ms. Patel swallowed. Lena. Are you saying your father and sister? I'm saying my signature was forged using credentials assigned to Mara Collins, I replied. And I'm saying my father authorized access to my office, my accounts, and my documents. My father's voice rose. You're destroying your own family. I leaned forward slightly. No, I said. You destroyed your own family the moment you decided my work belonged to you. Silence slammed down. Mr. Harlan cleared his throat. Lena. If this is true, the liability is enormous. Criminal. I nodded. I know. My father's face went pale. Ethan swallowed hard, eyes darting, calculating escape routes. I continued, voice steady. There is also another matter, I said. Ethan Shaw's position as operational consultant is terminated effective immediately. He has no authority to represent this company. Ethan's face snapped up. You can't just. I can, I said calmly. Because I'm not asking. Ms. Patel looked down at the documents again. Lena, why weren't we aware of this? Because I was busy saving the company, I thought. But what I said was simple. Because I was taught to handle everything quietly, I replied. So no one would be embarrassed. I glanced at my father. And now I'm done protecting people who never protected me. Julian's hand rested briefly on the back of my chair. Steady. Supportive. Not controlling. The board members exchanged looks. Then Mr. Harlan sat back, slow and thoughtful. If you're right, he said carefully, we need to act immediately. Freeze transactions. Alert compliance. Remove anyone involved. Ms. Patel nodded. Agreed. My father's voice cracked. You can't do this. I turned slightly, meeting his eyes. You're right, I said softly. I can't. He looked almost relieved. Then I added, but the board can. My father's face collapsed. The board voted. Right there, in front of him. A unanimous motion. Emergency control measures. Audit authority. Suspension of any executive access linked to my father or Mara. And then the final motion came, quiet, devastating. Ms. Patel looked at me. Lena. We'd like you to assume interim CEO powers until the audit concludes. My father made a strangled sound. No. I didn't look at him. I looked at the board. Then I nodded once. I accept, I said. Julian's smirk appeared, faint and dangerous. Ethan stared at me like he'd never seen me before. Because he hadn't. Not the real me. Not the woman who could end him with one sentence. My father took a step toward me, rage trembling in his hands. You ungrateful. Security appeared at the door, summoned by someone I didn't even see move. Julian's voice was calm. Escort Mr. Collins out, he said. My father's eyes widened. You can't. Julian's gaze didn't shift. They can, he said softly. And just like that, my father, who had spent decades making me feel small, was walked out of the boardroom like a stranger. Ethan didn't move. He just stood there, face tight, watching his lifeline snap. I turned to him. You should go too, I said. His eyes flashed. You think this is over? I tilted my head. For you? It's just beginning. Ethan's jaw clenched, then he stormed out. The door closed. And the room felt lighter, like a pressure had finally lifted. Ms. Patel exhaled. Lena. What do you need from us? I sat back, hands steady now. Support, I said. And silence until the audit is complete. Mr. Harlan nodded. You'll have it. The board began to disperse, voices hushed, urgent. When the room finally emptied, it was just me and Julian. I stared at the city beyond the window, the skyline bright and indifferent. My throat tightened. Not from sadness. From the enormity of what I'd just done. Julian stepped closer. You didn't shake, he said quietly. I wanted to, I admitted. Julian's gaze softened. But you didn't, he said. You stayed calm. You made them follow you. I swallowed. Is it always like this? Power? Julian's eyes were steady. It's always lonely, he said. Until you decide who you trust to stand beside you. I turned my head slowly. And who do you trust? I asked. Julian's mouth curved into that familiar smirk, less dangerous now, more honest. I'm starting to think, he said softly, that I trust you. My breath caught. Not because of the words. Because of the weight behind them. I looked down at my hands, steady, capable, finally mine. Then I looked back up. Then we finish it, I said. Julian nodded once. We finish it, he agreed. Outside the boardroom, my phone buzzed again. A new notification. Mara had posted. A headline. Missing heiress runs off with billionaire, family begs for her return. I stared at the screen. Julian leaned in, reading over my shoulder. His voice was calm. Let her scream, he said. The louder she gets, the clearer you look. I inhaled slowly. And for the first time, I believed it. Because the old Lena would have tried to quiet the storm. But the new Lena? The new Lena would let it rage, then walk through it untouched. And if Mara wanted the world to watch? Fine. Let them watch. Because the next time I spoke, it wouldn't be as a sister begging for fairness. It would be as a woman who finally owned her name. And everyone who stole it was about to pay.